All right, today I'm going to try to install a Draw-Tite 2-inch receiver for towing with my 2025 ID Buzz First Edition US all-wheel drive. I just got this in the mail from eTrailer. I had a Kurt on order for quite a while, but that apparently wasn't a good fit, or they were unhappy with something about the Kurt hitch. So eTrailer actually called me and said, do you want to switch to the Draw-Tite? I said, yeah, I don't really care which brand. I just want to get a hitch installed as soon as possible. So there's a lot of people asking about tow hitches on the ID Buzz, especially the first editions that did not come with them, which I think is a bummer, but I think this is actually more robust, potentially a better solution than that factory flip-out hitch, which is neat, but this is rated for 4,000 pounds, which is actually more than I believe the vehicle is rated for 3,500 in the US and 400 tongue. So quite a few tools are required. T15, T25 Torx, I think, are probably the two that people will have to make sure they've got. The Torx is essentially a star bit, 6-point. And yeah, the instructions they look reasonably straightforward, except there's a lot of fasteners that need to come out. So I'm going to kind of go step by step, and typically with these bumpers, one of the hardest things is just dealing with the bumper cover, not scratching it. You know, they're pretty flexible, but just trying not to damage it. The instructions call for masking taping around the seams, which is probably a good idea. Pretty easy to do. So I do need to get underneath the vehicle to get these fasteners out, which is gonna be pretty tight. I'm not using a ramp or lift, partly because I'm not sure that the lift I have access to is actually rated for the 6,200 pounds of this beast. And so I'm gonna try to do this, you know, just in a garage, and it's probably most useful to others too, because most people don't have access to a lift. So anyway, I'm going to start by removing some of the fasteners underneath the rear bumper, and I'll check back in once I've pulled some of those out. All right, so first one is pretty easy. These are the T25 Torx screws. This is just under the rear bumper. It's actually pretty easy to reach, at least for these first couple. I'm going to very carefully store and organize all these fasteners. It's a real pain if you have to sort through your fasteners and remember which ones are going where. So, oops, I can hear the top trying to close itself, or the rear hatch. Hopefully it's not gonna go. I guess I'm right by the sensor down here. I know, it's kind of mundane to look at this, but I think some people just like to see how these actual fasteners, it says there's 9 of them. I count 5 on the main row, so I'm gonna have to look around for the other 4, but so far so good. All right, I consulted the instructions, and you can see that there's 5 on the rear section, and then there's, let's see, 1, 2 on each side, and then 1, I believe, in the middle. Well, I'm gonna go around until I hit 9. There are different sizes, drivers, so the T25s, if it fits in there, let's see, that's a T25. Oh, okay, so maybe it's just the 2 sides, 2 on each of the sides. Let's check this out. All right, so there's 9 around the outsides, and then there's another 2. I have a wider washer on either side. I'm taking those out. I'm not sure if they need to come out, but they're T25 and they're a different head. So it's a total of 11 T25s. I can always just put them back in if it doesn't need to come out. All right, now there's 2 T15s that are along the back as well. Remove those next. All right, next step is to remove 3 screws, it says, but it looks like these are T25s. And I've got a low profile tool here because the tire is really close. You'll need a low profile T25 Torx or equivalent. All right, so I got all 6 of those out, 3 per side. They're pretty loose, so just a manual tool. This is actually a bike tool, but yeah, T25 Torx. And again, you need a low profile. I'm glad I had this because my other tool would not have reached without taking the wheel off. Not fun to do. So yeah, just make sure you have the right tools before you start. That'll help you out a lot. All right, next is 2 bolts. Should be 13 millimeter. Which are, let's see, right here. Thankfully, these aren't super duper tight, so. And remember that when you reinstall it, there's no reason to over tighten these things. So just kind of medium hand tight is really all you need. So I'm gonna pull these 2 bolts out and see what's next. All right, next, the center of the bottom panel. This is right in the middle. Took me a second to find this, but it's recessed. This is a 10 millimeter. So remove that one next. Oh, that's kind of a funny one. That's like a... Oh, I see. Is this even plastic? I'm sure they have a good reason for having all these different types of fasteners, but why not just use 1 or 2 sizes? I'm sure it's a German thing. They know better than us. All right, I'm gonna get this out. All right, this one turns and turns and turns. It's not coming out, but I think this panel's loose. No, it's still in there. It's weird, it's tight. I can't actually turn it with my fingers. I've turned it and turned it and turned it. It's not removing. I have to think about this one a little bit. All right, it says the next step is to use a flathead screwdriver to remove push pins behind wheel well liner. I'm not 100% sure that I have those pins. So unless I have some reason, my headlight's going weird. Unless I have some reason to come back to that, it looks like I don't have push pins to remove from the wheel well liner. Unless I'm misreading the instructions, but we'll see. Okay, so the instructions are telling us to line the seams of the bumpers with masking tape. And really, from experience, it's these corners. When you set it down, they tend to rest on the corners, so I don't know, I'm gonna try to set this somewhere that isn't gonna scratch anyway, but I am gonna put a little bit of masking tape on just because it's kind of silly not to play it safe. Let's see how this goes. Okay, I think I finally figured it out. They want you to line the seam because that's what we're gonna be prying along the seam with the trim removal tool. So I think that they're just trying to be doubly safe that you're not scratching the paint. I'm gonna use a plastic trim removal tool, which if you're careful shouldn't scratch anyway. But I think that's actually what they're saying is not so much for this for setting it down, but this for the prying between the 2 panels with the tool. All right, well, I've been struggling to get this panel off, and now I'm realizing as I look more closely that there is actually at least 1 push pin holding, it's hard to see, but basically right here, between the 2 panels, right at the edge, looks like there is a push pin that's sort of inverted, so it's got the head on the bottom. And since I was making no progress pulling that out, I'm guessing that's why. So I'm gonna pull that out. So don't do what I did. Make sure you get all the fasteners out first. And there it is. This came out of the junction between the lower and upper fascia, right about there. I used this tool, but I don't know, that's kind of an awkward one. I'm worried about getting that one back in too. So we'll see how the reverse works at the end, but I did get that out, so there's gonna be one of those on each side. Oh, I see. This is the kind where you can pull out the top half and then it should release. So I'm not sure if I did that or not. It was honestly just so hard to see that I just kind of used force between those 2 discs with this tool, so anyway. And lo and behold, once that fastener is out, this is coming out like a piece of cake. So I guess once you get all the fasteners removed, this shouldn't be too bad. I still have that 10mm in the bottom of the middle. We'll see if I run into problems with that later too. But now I'm just gonna work all the way around the edges, see if I run into any challenges, but this should just come right off now. Well, that was very much not fun. I did spray a little bit of soapy water, which seemed to help a little bit. I should have done that more. Man, that was not at all fun. It's flexible, but you know, it's just not a pleasant thing to be pulling that hard on a piece that big. And you know, this one right here was the hardest to remove. I don't know. I guess if you stuck a trim tool in there, you can release them by pushing the tabs. Maybe? Okay, yeah, that's probably what I did wrong. You gotta push your tool in the slot to release each of the little tabs. So the instructions were not at all clear on that, so yeah. Next step is to unplug these two connectors and get ready to remember to do that before you put the bumper back on too. Okay, to remove these connectors you actually lift on that little triangle protrusion, I think. Although, that doesn't make sense. I don't really know what I did. Oh, I guess they just pull. These are two different shapes, so you shouldn't have to keep track of which one's which. That's a weird connector. I don't know why they don't snap. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but it looks like they just pull out. Alright, I'm hopeful these next steps will be a little easier. Now I grabbed the 16mm socket. I've got a torque wrench here, I don't need that for loosening, but that does work too. It looks like you got 1, 2, 3, and there's the missing one top right there that we're gonna actually have to drill to install the tow hitch, which will go through that same slot. And then you got 4. I think all 4 on this side for some reason. Not sure why they did it that way. So I'm gonna remove all these and set them aside. Remove this bumper barrier. Okay, so that was one of the easier steps. You do have to pull out when you when it's loosened, when it's fully loosened. That's interesting. They got 4 holes on each side, but only 3 on the bumper member. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, just pull out. I don't know if there's a pin, but you have to pull straight out once it's loose. And then here's the bumper, and bumper member. You'll see this one's not drilled on one of the 4 corners, so that's what we're gonna have to drill with a 1/2 inch bit. Not sure how hard this metal is to drill. I might use a smaller bit as a pilot, but I'll probably just start with that 1/2 inch and just see how it goes. Recommends to use this bolt pattern as a template. Use a piece of paper or whatnot. Transfer it over. I think I will do that. I know it looks like you can kind of see where the middle would be. I'll just transfer it just to be extra sure. I ended up just measuring with a tape measure and then just reproduce that here. And this 1/2 inch bit has a little starter in it, so I don't need to pre-drill, but otherwise I probably would. Yep. Here's the first test fitting. The arms and the sides actually go into these slots. Which you can't see now, they're blocked, but the vehicle is designed to receive this. I have to get underneath, I guess, to see where the fasteners will attach inside, but hopefully most of the hard stuff is done here. All right, this is really tough. So I actually got the jack out to relieve some of the weight on the tow bar. It is so heavy. Both these pieces are hardened steel. and it was just too hard to get the the bolts even loosely threaded. So I'm hopeful that just taking some of that weight off with the jack is going to make this at least possible. Yeah, the jack helped immensely because it held the tow bar in place, and then you could just adjust the crash beam. I'm going to double check that the bends and the crash bar go down like this. I think this is right, but I'm going to double check that before I move on. So I was confused for a while, but the new bolt they give you for the fourth hole appears to be a 17 millimeter, not a 16 like the rest of them. I don't think the instructions said that, so I think it's a 17 for the additional bolt for the fourth hole. Getting the bolts tightened, not the easiest thing, so some flexible extensions, or pivoting at least, would help. I think I can get by without, but yeah, maybe get some kind of something that can bend a little bit, because the bumper is straight back and you have to be able to get in there and tighten those. All right, so with the, I guess all 8 bolts on there loosened but not fully tightened, next I'm doing the additional bolts that go into the side of these sort of frame rails, and there's a captured nut on the part of the hitch that's inside the slot of the vehicle. And actually it was pretty easy to reach up there and get that loosened. You see, the torque wrench is harder, but that part was pretty easy. All right, so I ended up using long extensions to get them loosely seated. It's kind of tight here. And then I just used, I guess in this case, a deep socket or a short extension if you have a normal depth socket, and then I was able to get it in all 4 of them. These upper inner ones are the hardest, but you can get a few clicks, so that wasn't so bad. So next I'm gonna get the 19 millimeters tightened on the underside. It was 48 pound-feet for these, and I believe it's 72 or so on the structural under bolts. Okay, I realized if I got an even longer extension, I can reach all the way through. It's 76 pound-feet, which is a lot. So this is gonna be really tight. Let's see if these extensions have too much slack, but I think this is gonna work. Man, 76 is very tight, but with a big long extension, it does seem to have worked. So I checked the instructions, but I think now I just need to put the bumper back on, and don't forget those connectors. Rookie mistake. Don't install everything and then have to rip it open again. So make sure you get those connectors attached to the bumper before you start reinstalling it. Oh man, this is a difficult job. So I was trying to put the bumper on, then I realized that the hole for the receiver requires you to stretch this part over it. And I just finagled it. I mean, it probably took me 15 minutes to pop that over it. And it's very flexible, so you can position it and kind of snap it, but very unpleasant. Kind of rather have someone else do this in retrospect. So now I'm going to try to get the bumper snapped back into position, and hopefully the rest will be reasonably straightforward, but man, this is not for the faint of heart. All done. Boy, that was difficult. I think it turned out nice, but I would like to get a quote from a professional next time. Knowing that it's this difficult, I don't know. I did it in the garage without a lift. You know, that part was fine, but this was really a challenge, especially getting the bumper, the lower hole, over the receiver protrusion. That was really uncomfortable because it just felt like you were stretching it too far. I think it was fine, but and then the other difficulty is just these clips on the bumper lower seam. But you know, if I did it again, I would kind of know where to put the trim tool in and kind of release those connectors. That would make it easier. You know, I did use some spray that had some soapy water in it. That did seem to help slicken stuff up a little bit too. So I don't know. I think it turned out nice. I just would like to know what that would have cost for a professional, because you know, that was a lot of work. I think it took me over 3 hours could have saved some time. Well, I don't know, just the bumper connection was really what slowed me down. I guess hopefully people watching this can, you know, maybe do it a little quicker than I did it, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is they said expert level, and I think it's maybe even above that. It's almost like, don't do this at home unless you're really confident and frankly have a lot of time to spend on it. So hopefully people can see, you know, how difficult this was and make the decision for themselves, whether that's something you want to tackle. And I guess that's hopefully what I'm providing people by recording this and sharing this video. So can't wait to trailer with it. It's very robust. I mean, it says it's rated for 4,000 pounds, but the way that it's bolted into those slots, all the way, you know, deep into the unibody, I wouldn't be surprised if this could actually handle a lot more than that, but the vehicle, I suppose, is the limitation there at 3,500 rating. So yeah, if you use like a Hitch box or a Hitch carrier or something like that, or bike rack, I think this will easily handle the tongue weight of 400 it's rated for, and I have a feeling it could probably handle even a lot more than that. So yeah, I hope this was helpful to people who are deciding whether to install the Draw-Tite 2-inch. I think it's a class 3, might be a class 4, and it's doable if you get all the right tools and a lot of time and some patience. But yeah, all right, until next time, bye bye.